Limitless, I always say that, Limitless Faith podcast. I just changed it, guys, so I apologize. We have an amazing guest here tonight with us on Labor Day, and I have had the honor to be able to meet with Eric, also known as Tyler, but to hear his journey, to hear how the Lord came into his life, how addiction took over his life, and just how what he's doing now to be able to help other people. So, my brother, welcome to the podcast, man. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks, Clint. Yeah, man, I'm super stoked that we got connected. And I think it was like a month and a half ago, we had a really good conversation. I think it was supposed to be like a 15-minute conversation that turned into a 45-minute one. And we've been trying to connect ever since. And I'm super stoked to be on tonight and tell my story. And we can get into, how God's worked in my life and just what I'm doing now. So I'm super stoked to have a conversation with you tonight.
Dude, let's do it, man. I'm ready to do this. To be honest, what you're doing is not what most people do, right? If you look at the cycle of addiction, you see what happens in people's lives. Not a lot of people turn to do triathlons, and not a lot of people push themselves to that level. So I really want to dive deep into this story of when you were growing up, what you experienced, because I know that you had a lot of different roller coaster moments in your life where it was up and down. You weren't really sure what you were doing. So if you want to you start wherever you want. I'm going to give you the floor.
Let's
the ride.
Yeah, man. I'm ready to go. So yeah, let's start early in life, man. Come from a divorced household, right? So 9 years old, saw my parents get divorced, and lived with my mom for a long time. I tried to, have a relationship with my dad. We went back and forth. It was good for a little while. And then it just, he kind of did some other things and didn't really have a relationship with him for about 2 to 3 years. And then entering into high school, right? It was my mom and my stepdad and playing college, high school football, high school baseball. He then came back into my life and started wanting to have a relationship with me once, I started doing pretty well in sports, and really started to develop that kind of relationship. And it went all the way into college, right? So I went on to play college football. And that was just a good time in my life. It was a good day in the college times. And my dad was always at the games, right? My mom and dad were both there with my stepdad and everyone that supported me in my life. So we really rekindled the relationship, and we went on, and we go more into this, but I'd say in 2010 and up to until when he passed away in 2023, we had a great relationship, 13-year relationship that revolved around faith and car racing. And so, through college, met a girl in college, got married, going into my senior year of college, and then was divorced before I graduated college. And then that's when my life, I would say, started spiraling down. At that time when I was married, we didn't get married and, we got married in church, but it was, by a kind of a priest, you call it whatever, but it wasn't really anything that centered around God. So I think that was probably one of the first signs that it wasn't going to work out. And then after that divorce, I just really went downhill, was partying, just did a lot of bad decisions, probably spent a good 7 to 8 years of my life that you work and then you go to the bars 3 or 4 nights a week. And then you continue that cycle, right? You're going in and out of relationships and just wasn't really just a stable foundation and just not a good act. So I would say that so backing up a little bit to my childhood, that we grew up Lutheran. We're going to church all the time with my mom and dad. We went to this small church. I still remember it, and probably fit maybe 100 people in it. I remember going to Sunday school. I remember going through all that stuff, as people, just look at a family. That's what you do. Once my parents got divorced, that kind of all went away. My mom didn't go to church. I went to church maybe a handful of times with some friends, and things like that. But then I would say, what year was it? Probably 2014 or so. My friend was like, "Hey, why don't you come to church with us? It's a cool atmosphere. The pastors all got sleeves and stuff. As you can see, I've got sleeves as well, but they've got sleeves, and he's just a cool dude." So I'm like, "Hey, let me go check it out." So started going there off and on a little bit, and then met my wife. Well, soon it was going to be my soon-to-be wife, but like I met her, and she comes from a really good faith foundation. So we started, talking, and that's really, I think, when God weaved his way back into my life really on a full-time basis was with her. And then we started really going into church a lot. And really, when we got married, it was in a small church, and it was all centered around God and faith. And you could just feel the atmosphere was a lot different that time around. It was something to be had. So we started out a great relationship, but then I still was drinking and partying, and it seemed like that I didn't leave the 20s behind, right? I was 30 some at the time, and it all was, leading up until I would say last summer, right? I got, I think, out of control. Like I was just going out of the bars alone, lying about what I was doing. It just wasn't a good look coming home and saying, "Hey."
Was this while you were married?
Yeah, that's what.
Second marriage?
Yeah, now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Sadie and I, we're going to celebrate 7 years tomorrow, right?
Cool.
And so last summer, it just, I just looked at it, and I've got two little girls, 4 and 3, and just wasn't being a good leader, right? Not a good father, not a good husband. It just wasn't good. And so I made the commitment last June to stop drinking altogether. I remember June 3rd, it was just like, "Hey, I'm done drinking." My buddy got married on the 2nd, and I said, "I'm going to be done drinking." And here we are.
1 second. So, okay. So did you wake up one morning and you were just like, "Yeah, I don't need this anymore"? Or did somebody speak to you, and when they spoke to you, you had almost like a moment where you had a self-reflection, and you were like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah, I think it was the December of 23.
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry, December of 22.
Yeah.
We were up on a family vacation up in the UP in Michigan, and I got the text on New Year's Eve that my dad was going to the hospital. Usually when he goes to the hospital, like he was battling cancer for 7 years, and when he was going to the hospital, it's like, okay, he's going to the hospital, he'll be out in a couple of days, or it's just a routine thing, right?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, like I would have a couple beers here and there, but then like at that point, it's just like, hey, I'm going to stop probably drinking here, and in case I have to drive home and something goes sour. So then we come home the next day. It's a Sunday. I'm at the hospital Monday morning. And at that point, I was like, well, I got to be on my A game for my dad, right? Because he's in the hospital, and I can't drink. I can't, because I got to make sure I'm up and stuff like that. Because when you drink and you heavily drink, the next day you're hungover, you don't want to go do something, you cancel plans, you call people like, I don't feel well, and it just doesn't do well. So like for my dad and for the family, like I knew I had to be on my A game and make sure what was going on. So for that 2 weeks, he was in the hospital fighting for his life, right? I didn't drink a drop, and I was like, at that point, I'm like, hey, I don't need that in my life. And then once he passed away, I kind of went back. I fell back a little bit, and then through those months afterwards, it was kind of weaning myself off here and there, and it wasn't relying on alcohol that much. And then I just could tell, like, when you come home and you look at your wife and you've had 4 or 5 beers and you tell her you have 2, you can tell that she knows, right? And you can just tell, like, you're living those lies. And it's just like, you can see the stress that it puts on her. And like, I just had to do something different. She never gave me an ultimatum, but you could just tell, right? At that point, it's just like, you got to change. Something's got to be different about you.
It's almost like she didn't have to speak it.
Right.
You just knew it.
Yeah.
Like you could feel it. You're like, okay, well, I'm lying. Like, obviously, I'm lying. Like I had 5, 6 drinks, whatever it might be. But she almost just let it like play its course.
Yeah.
And was like, okay, he'll figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, and then like we looked at, I remember like, I think it was last July or August. I don't remember the date. I just remember coming home and just like sobbing. I'm like, I'm so sorry for like what I put you through. Like, will you forgive me? She's like, yeah, of course. And she's like, at that point, she's like, she kind of knew like, hey, he's turning the corner or something like that, right? It's just like you realize how much hurt you put that other person through. And like as men, right, and you don't have kids yet, but you'll learn this.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be leaders of the pack. We're supposed to lead our family. We're supposed to lead our wives, our kids, everyone like that. You're supposed to be the role model. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if you're out doing stuff like that, like you just can't be that leader. You can't be that role model. And you're almost living a double life at that point. It's not good. And so I knew something had to change. And like we sit here September 2nd and, tomorrow is 15 months sober. It's just like, I don't even know if I can go back, like to go back to drinking. Right. It's like, just don't see a point in my life. It's like that controlled so much of your life. Like you think about it, right? What way do you take home, right? Oh, I'm just going to go by the bar, right? I'm going to take this detour, stop by there and be home later, right? It's just, there's so many different things that incorporates. And I literally just had a conversation with a buddy last Friday. He's leaving for the Dominican and he kind of went through the same thing as I did, but he's now 8 months sober. And he was just like, he's like, you don't realize how much that vice controls you. He was like driving separate from, and I'm not going to say his name, but he would drive separate from his family to sporting events or whatever, because he'd get 3 or 4 drinks in and be loaded. And it's just like that, it just controls so much. And you go through like so many years of that and then it becomes normal, right? It's just at the end of the day, like it controls so much. And a lot of people are like, it's not a big deal. It really is a big deal. And look at any vice in the life, whether we look at, drugs, adultery, murder, anything like that. It's like, it controls your lives. Like it does. So
yeah, you're 100% right. We come from a lot of the same similarities. My dad died of cancer. And my dad was a heavy drinker. I come from an alcoholic background, an addiction background. Growing up though, like that was all I saw. It was kind of normal for me. And I got to ask you this, when you decided to make this change, who were you surrounding yourself with during that time? And then when you made the change, did you see a difference in your environment?
Yeah. I mean, so as I said before, I was into car racing. I would go to endurance racing and literally like the only reason I wouldn't like, when you're like, hey, I'm going to stop drinking. Right. But then you always had a next event, right? A race, a birthday, something to celebrate, right? Something, I can't do that for another 30 days because I got this X, Y, and Z. You look at Lent, right? It's like, I'm never getting it for Lent because I've got a race in the middle of Lent. I'm not going to do that because we always are drinking at the race. But like, I have race car buddies. I got people that I've got a good core group of friends, right? And I told them, I said, I'm going to stop drinking. They're like, cool, we support you. And I found non-alcoholic drinks, right? I found these hop waters. They taste like IPAs, right? It's just waters and hops and 0 calories. You have your non-alcoholic beers. I know how to socialize without having to have a drink. Like I still like to have something that's other than water. But like they were all cool with it and supported me in that. They wouldn't like, we were still racing after that. Right. We went to a couple of races and like, they never said, oh, you're going to drink. What are you going to, I'm like, no, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. They fully supported the commitment that I had on that. So I never really lost anyone. And if not, like, I think you kind of have more of an effect on people that way that you surround yourself with. Right. So if they see like, hey, this guy's not drinking, blah, 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 he can do it. He's been a party animal. Maybe I want to give it a shot. Why am I drinking and doing that? And so I think it's had a positive effect on my friends and who I surround myself with.
Love that.
And I think it's just, and that proves me that I had found a good circle of friends too. So,
dude, I love that. I love it because it shows the strength and the power that you can now do this. And now when you go into your friends and your friends are like, hey, you want to drink? Oh no, I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah. No, we'll stick with this. They see that, and it's almost like in ministry or in when you're bringing somebody closer to Jesus and you're bringing them to follow Jesus, you're planting seeds.
Yeah.
And every day you're planting a seed, either if you're with your friends and your actions, your characteristics, or whatever it might be, you are planting a seed every time you make that decision. So you're being a light for people to follow, which is beautiful. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, I don't need to like. I hope that people can see my story and say, I'm in that position and I need help, or they need something. I was one that was like, I don't need help, but at the end of the day, I did.
Yeah.
And I had the power, and I think I didn't pray to God. I just said, hey, help me through this time, like whatever you need to do. And just with his strength, it just really helped me be able to not go back to that vice. And I've had times where I've had a very bad week at work. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, man, if I was a drinking man again, I'd be going down and getting a 12-pack like that. And so now it's just like, hey, let me go for a run. Let me go for a bike, or like, let me get a really good zone 4, zone 5 workout in, and then I'll feel a lot better. So it's just like you turn to other things that help your body out more than take away from it.
So let's talk about that. So not a lot of people just hop into triathlon training, right? So what did you see an ad? How did that happen?
Yeah, so didn't see an ad. And here's the thing is that in order to be on the sober path, you have to have a goal. You and I are goal mindset, right? We have addictive personalities. We're goal mindset. If you're going to be on a path to something, then you got to set a goal for yourself. So I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And so I'm looking at like, and not to mention, let's talk about, I played college football, right? I went in 160 pounds and graduated at 195 pounds, started in as a running back and graduated as one of the top linebackers. And so like, that was a big change. And then after college, right, you're like, hey, I was working out for a job, like essentially playing, and it was just Division III college football. Still, it was a job. And then you're on the yo-yo diet, right? After college, like, cause you're able to like eat whatever you wanted to, go lift, go work out. You're still in pretty good shape, but then you get out of college and it just like, you just want to not work out anymore. So I didn't have a swimming background. I didn't have a cycling background. I didn't have a running background at all. But in 2017, I bought a bike, rode a bike because some of my buddies were just, hey, let's ride bikes together. I'm like, cool. So I really enjoyed cycling. So I was like, this was a time like, hey, if I'm going to cut out alcohol, I need to get back in the gym and really hit it hard to see how I would perform at that point in time. Because like when I was still in the gym I did 3 months of CrossFit and did really well, but I still drink it. Like I want to give myself the best chance. So I said, I like biking. So what can I do that is going to challenge me? So I literally just started looking online, like, and I came across like the Ironman stuff, and I knew we were just kind of getting on to like, we're getting ready to go on a vacation in July to Michigan. And I was like, man, I think it would be a challenge for me to swim. So I was looking online, and like there's sprint triathlons. I'm like 0.3 miles swimming. I can do that easily. Like, okay, let's do that. 12-mile bike and a 5K. I can do that stuff to get started with, to see if I really like this. And so I just really, that's how I got into it. It was like, I wanted to challenge myself because I wanted to see if I could swim. I know I love cycling, and like running, I wanted to challenge myself and find something if I could really enjoy doing that. And so July, it really I started swimming, and I was like, this is way tougher than it looks. But the cycling was good. Running off the cycling was a little bit getting used to. But yeah, I jumped in and did my first triathlon. So July, I did my first triathlon a year ago, September 3rd, 2023. And I failed to swim. Like I got 150 yards, and I was in a wetsuit. Wetsuit provides you more buoyancy and help you float. And I just panicked, and I just had to get carried out in a kayak. They let me do the bike and the run, but I felt like I failed.
Yeah. And
it was on our anniversary, my wife's anniversary last year. And so after the fact, she was like, yeah, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, I failed to swim. Like, I don't know why you are. She's like, well, you tried something and you failed, like, and you didn't do it. Like, you're showing your daughters, like, as adults, you're still failing, but you're still trying. And so at that point, I said, hey, I really had a good time. I really want to go into this. She's like, cool. I said, I got to get a coach. She's like, I agree. You need a coach. And so that's when I hired a coach in October of last year. And then we can go more on that later. But yeah, that's how I got into it. It just was to keep a sober mindset. And I knew if I was doing triathlon, you have to work out pretty much every day that either, if you're swimming, biking, or running every day,
Yeah.
I knew that to be to be able to compete or to finish, that I couldn't drink.
Wow.
So
Dude, that's incredible. That's incredible to just, I can highly relate with you when it comes to challenges.
Yeah.
Because we're a very high performance mindset. I believe addiction, if it doesn't transform, it transfers, right? And it transfers into whatever we want to make it. We can do business. We can do triathlons. Now I'm training for high rocks right now. And it's like an addiction. It's like, I can't wait to go work out.
Yeah.
I am horrible at running, and I'm horrible at ergs, and I'm horrible at rows, but I know that I'm challenging myself. We get to a certain point as a human being. I don't know if you listen to Jesse Itzler or not, but Jesse Itzler talks about how he does one crazy thing every year. He does one thing that is like mind blowing to push himself. Yeah. So he does it one day so that the next 364 days sets him up mentally for what he's going to do the rest of the year. I believe it is so true that we need to challenge ourselves regardless of what it is. So like if you do a triathlon, maybe you go and do an Ironman. Right? You're always like pushing yourself to the next level, because as humans, we can get very complacent.
Yep.
And then we can get complacent and get comfortable. And we can get to a place of comfortability where everybody else around us is comfortable as well. But then we don't realize that we're not doing anything different because we're all comfortable.
Right.
Because you don't have people that are pushing you. You might have people that are pushing you into the bar for the next drink, and that's the next comfortable thing. But when you start to get out of that comfort zone, which you're doing right now, I think you are doing something that is going to actually, I think you can take your experience, and after you've done this a couple of times, you can help other people with an addiction who have, hey man, what did you do? Hey, oh, you want a challenge? Okay, cool. You could call it your own challenge. There's so many different ways you can take this and make it so it's positive in other people's life, which I think is just the coolest thing about what you're doing. And you're not stopping, man. I'm pretty sure are you preparing right now? No, you just got done with the triathlon.
Yeah, I just got done with the Ironman 70.3 in Louisville.
Okay.
Second one of the year. And then so that was a good event. I actually cut off 60 minutes.
60
60 1 hour.
That's 1 hour.
Off the first 70.3 Ironman 70.3 that I did this year, which was in May. So in 3 months, I cut off 60 minutes of my whole time.
Dude, 60 minutes. I just want to put that into a better understanding for people. Guys, 60 minutes off of your time is, I don't even know how to explain. How do you explain that to somebody?
I really don't. So here's how I tell it to people, that like, when you look at Ironman 70.3s, and let's look at the breakdown of how that looks, right? It's a 1.2 mile swim. It's a 56 mile bike and a 13.1 mile run, all within one day, right? Swim, bike, run. So Chattanooga, I did it in 6.5 hours, 6 hours and 34 minutes. Louisville, I did it in 5 hours and 29 seconds. And the standard, like what people really like to shoot for in those 70.3s is sub 5 hours. Like that's like, you have done really well at a sub 5 hour pace.
Right.
And to put that in perspective, right? So on the swim, I only cut 3 minutes off my time, right? Okay. That's just the worst discipline that I have. And that's something that I'm working on. And that's why I'm doing some other races now. On the bike, I did it in 3 hours and 18 minutes at Chattanooga. At Louisville, I did it in 2 hours and 34 minutes. So I almost picked up, like that's 45 minutes. I picked up 5 miles per hour on my bike in Louisville.
Sustained.
Yeah. And then on the run, I did Chattanooga in like 2 hours and 10 minutes, I believe, and I think it was like a 9. I don't remember the pace, but then I just did this one in Chattanooga, or in Louisville, at like a 1:51. So it was like an 8.5 minute pace or something like that. And so that's really how I knocked it all off. And it was nutrition. There's a lot of things that went into it. Not to mention, in the middle of those 3 months, I took a week off because I was moving cities. And so and I just prepped a lot better. So I think, it was just crazy, like seeing that 60 minutes, is how much I took off because of like mindset training, nutrition, a lot of things went into that formula for being successful. So,
and you come from failing your first like triathlon to now doing one Ironman, then shaving off an hour. So let me ask you this: when you had your coach and your training, were you guys shooting for a sub-5, regardless of the training, or?
I wanted to, because I was like, when I was training, like I did a half marathon in April, and I did that in 1 hour and 37 minutes, first half marathon ever, and I did it at like a 7.5 minute pace. I'm like, I can do that. Like if I'm doing that stuff, like I should be able to breathe pretty close. And then I didn't realize how bad my swim was going to be. So the goal was on the first one, I had a sub 5 hour programmed like goal set. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to finish because I knew that was my second triathlon ever, right? You go from failing one and then you sign up for a half Ironman, and all you want to do is just finish that race. That's all you want to do and do well. And so that was really the ultimate goal, was to finish. I remember finishing Chattanooga, and my kids were there and my wife was there, and they're like, "We're so proud of you." I'm like, I just didn't get the time I wanted. And they're like, do you understand? My wife looks at me. She's like, you just finished things that people don't even want to accomplish. She's like, you ran a half marathon faster than some people can even run. Like after you swam back and run, then some people can even run a half marathon. She's like, so you should be super proud of like what you did. So like when people put in that perspective, like you think about it, right? It's like you want a certain time. But at the end of the day, you put in perspective that you did something that you didn't think that you could accomplish. And we can weave, God and Jesus into this, because like there's a lot of times in your life that you're like, man, I don't think I can do this. And there's times that running, I'm like, God, just be with me. And sometimes I'll talk to my dad. It's like, Dad, I need you right now. And like, there's a lot of times that happens, right? Where it's like, hey, you did the training, you're set up for it. So let's look at it this way. If you do your training in the morning with God, right? You read your scripture, you're doing the right things, you're praying, right? At the end of the day, whether that's your event in 6 months or 12 months, in God, you don't really, in God's terms, you don't really know when it's going to be, but you should be trained up for when that moment happens. So you look at triathlons, is like when you train up for 8 months, you've got the right training. So when it gets tough, your body's going to get through it. It's just a mental game at that point.
Dude, that's so good. I always talk about preparation before preparation.
Yeah.
Right. So like a lot of people I find is they'll like start getting ready for something when they find out about it, say like a week or 2 weeks beforehand. But if you have been preparing, no matter what it is, back when I did fitness modeling, you had to be prepared, right? You had to be prepared to take the shot. Like you can't just step up there and not take a shot. For you, you are staying prepared regardless. And I think you learned a lot of that during your first training into your next training. But then also, I want to talk about hiring a coach, because this is one of the things that completely changed my life, because I could only see things in my perspective. I could only see things how I wanted to see it and how I thought things would go.
Yep.
But when you have a coach, and I'm sure your coach has done many races and your coach understands this deeply.
Yep.
Your coach almost sees something in you before you see it in yourself. And you're guiding off of what that looks like. So what was that experience like for you?
So it was a very humbling experience, like hiring a coach and just admitting like, hey, I need help. Right. It's just like, I think that's one of the biggest things, is like people think like a lot of times it's like, hey, I can do all this on my own. But hiring a coach changed probably like the way I did things. Right. Mm-hmm. Because at that point I didn't have to research any more workouts.
Yep.
I didn't. He literally puts it in for the week, and then I follow the plan, right? So I can easily plan out my weeks at that point, and then go from there. So that was, and then he did a video analysis on my swim. So he worked with me in the one-on-one in the pool, and it was just, I say humbling because there's a lot that went into the swimming thing that I didn't even understand and know. And like, I have more appreciation for a lot of these people who can swim really well.
Yeah.
And so the experience has been great. And then like when he loads up, like when it hit December, January, and I was in full training mode, like it got super dark and depressing sometimes, because it's like these hard workouts that you're inside all the time. You can't get out. And like, I'm not in Texas like you are, right? And you can still work out outside. Like once it hits October, November, I'm inside on the trainer and the treadmill, and then the trainer, it's like you're doing hard workouts, and you got to, it's mental training at that point. But it got tough where some workouts I couldn't finish. And I told him, like, I couldn't finish these. He's like, yeah, I didn't know if you could or not. I was just trying to challenge you because you have had a hard week, but like, this is like the mental game that you need to prepare for. And so I think, like, as a coach, like, pushing your athletes to where they break sometimes and then putting them back together and understanding where that is. And then you can shoot for, better workouts at that point, I think is really good. And I think that's what my coach does really well. So.
Yeah, he pushed you. I believe a good coach, what they can do is they can push you past your limits, thinking that they know you're not going to make it. They know you're not going to be able to make this mark that they're set for you, but they know it mentally you're going to push past the limit that you've never pushed past before. Because in Navy SEAL training, that's exactly what they do. When they get to Hell Week, they know these guys aren't going to be able to do half of the things that they do. But they know if they can mentally push past everything that they're going through and they can rely on their teammates, that they're going to make it. So dude, that's it. That's incredible. Now, let me ask you this. Has that training now been able to transfer in other parts of your life of how you operate?
I'm trying to think. I would
mentality wise.
Oh, I would say for sure. Yeah. 100%. Like, let's just talk about business for a little bit. Like there's been some times this past year where it's like, I've had some weeks where it's like, it's been mentally draining, but like in the position I am in the company, like I can't show that weakness. I can't show that mental fatigue. We got a dog. And so it's just, it did transfer into that Oslo stop. And then I think just at home, it's like you're a better person, you're a better leader. You understand your kids a little bit more. Like you try to push them a little bit to where you are, but then try to ease back. So I think you try to like not implement that, but you try to coach them along as well, from what you've experienced. And so I think it does circle back into how you raise your kids too. So.
Oh man, I love that. If we can, let's talk a little bit about home life. Since you have made this shift in your life, okay, you were drinking, you were at the bar, your kids saw you in this light, but now your kids see you in this light. Your wife sees you in a different light of you taking care of yourself, but pushing yourself as well. You're teaching your kids a whole different way to see things. And I'm not sure if you follow somebody named Fraser Bailey, but he homeschools his kid, and then also they work out together. And this guy's built like a brick house, dude. It's crazy, and he's vegan. The thing that I love about what he does is like he takes his kids to the track with him. They do workouts together. They eat healthy together. Like they're actually showing them everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
Because in the world that we live, and especially with kids, and I don't have kids, but you can get lost so easily, I'm sure, with social media and TikTok and all these things that are out there that are just surfacing, that you have to keep your guard up.
Yeah. So I think home life has been a lot better. I'll go out, like I'll be stretching, go out for like a bike ride, and my daughter, my oldest Eleanor, she'll stretch with me, right? She'll just be stretching and things like that. And now she wants to she's like, hey, I'm going to do triathlons and stuff now too. So like, well, we got to swim and bike and run. And so we got to train and things like that. And so she's like, probably about a month ago, she started wanting to ride her bike again.
Wow.
She hasn't really wanted to ride it. And so then, and I, we got that for her last Christmas, but like, I never actually taught her how to ride a bike. You just assume like, you just know how to do it. Right. You don't realize that you have to actually be the teacher sometimes. Right. And so what she was doing, she was getting so frustrated because every time she'd ride that bike, Clint, she would look at her feet. I'm like, why are you looking at your feet? And she's like, well, I want to make sure they stay on the pedals. So I'm like, hey, you're going to be way more enjoyable if you actually look ahead, and actually was able to teach her like how to ride the bike. And now she loves riding the bike and stuff like that. And so like, that's been great. Like, like what else has really changed? I mean, home life, like, I mean, I'm home before they go to bed pretty much every night as much as I can be. Depending on vacations and stuff like that, like more present, I would say for sure, with the kids, with my wife at home. they come to every race. They love seeing it. They love seeing, they love being at the races and like doing that stuff. And so I think at the end of the day, it's only been a positive impact for everyone.
So good, man. So good. Everything you're speaking about is what I believe everybody should hear, because this is what I've seen when I was in fitness coaching. I saw how imperative it was for parents to step up, and it still is to this day. Like, we struggle with obesity, we struggle with diabetics, we struggle with a lot of different things in this world. And what people don't want to speak about is it's the parents that teach the younger generation of how they're living. Because a lot of times, if you look at this, you'll look at the parents and you'll look at the kid, and you will see direct resemblance of that.
Yeah. And the crazy thing, like, I see is that, like, we go to some of these birthday parties sometimes, and there'll be pizza, there'll be lemonade, there'll be all this stuff. And like, yeah, we let my daughter have it and stuff like that. But like, the funny thing is that she has to go to the bathroom a lot more than her peers. And sometimes it causes accidents.
Yeah.
Because she drinks a lot more water. Because at home we push the water, we water, because that's what we do at home. So it's like, then she gets around these people that aren't drinking this water. And she's like, why aren't they going to the bathroom as much as me? And then she has accidents because she doesn't want to stop playing and stuff like that. And so it's just like,
right.
It's like, it's weird that it has a negative effect sometimes when you get around those type of people. But like, yeah, it's been a good, we try to eat as healthy as we can. Yeah. We have chicken nuggets. Sometimes we still get ice cream and things like that, but majority of the time we're eating as healthy as we can.
So though, with this change, everything that you've done, home life got better. Your life got better. You're in better shape. You probably feel a lot better. You're a better person for your employees, for your roofing company, correct?
Yep.
And then overall, just 100% better in all areas from where you were to where you are now.
100, like 200% correct. Yeah.
100% correct.
Yeah.
So when you made this change, your home life, your wife, your kids, how about your employees? Did you see a difference?
Well, see, I just started the company. So I haven't drank at all since I've been with this company. So a lot of people were like, when I first got in, they're like, this is a guy that does triathlon. Like, they started asking quite a bit of questions. Like, do you do this all your life? Like, how's this worked and stuff? And so it got them interesting, but like, it makes me, I think, become a better manager for them, and someone that I think, in my opinion, if they see leaders within companies working out, doing the right things, that it hopefully will domino effect down into the employees and shift the mindset sometimes. And sometimes it doesn't. People are in their ways,
right.
And things like that. But like, you hope that like they see that the top people within the company are doing the right things, and then they might follow suit or understand why, we got to where we got to.
So if you could speak to somebody right now, let's say they're listening to this, they're struggling with addiction. I mean, whatever it could be, alcohol, drugs, pornography, it could be anything. What are some things that you might tell them that helped you, that you didn't realize how much it helped at that point, but if they can do these steps to start bringing them in the right direction, at least, what does that look like?
First, find your why. In my opinion, why are you going back to the vice that you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
What's causing that? A lot of times it's emotional stress. A lot of the times it's just to get away from things. A lot of times because they're not happy and things. So find the why and why you're doing it, and then really look back and find what are you missing in your life that you used to enjoy. So what did you used to do, right, that brought you joy in your life that you don't do anymore? So I would say, understand why the vices you're doing, then go and understand, like, find something that you really enjoy and understand, because then that gives you a goal, right? You find your problem, then you find a goal that you can put in place. And then third is like, take it one day at a time, right? It's like, hey, I'm not going to drink this day, or I'm not going to do something this day, right? Yeah. Okay, that's one day, right? Then you go to the next day. Hey, I'm not going to do this. That's another day, right? And then if you fall back and regress, which luckily I have never have, but it's just like, it's okay. like, you're not a bad person. You're forgiven still. And that we can start again the next day. That's the beauty of this, is that you're given another chance the next day, because we wake up every day and we're healthy and we're, breathing. As long as you're breathing and wake up, you have the opportunity to make those changes the next day, right? And then the compound of 1%. I love that theory, because one day, 1% plus 1% plus 1% adds up very quickly.
Right.
And then you get to 30, 45 days into it, and then you realize it's how much of an effect it had on your life.
Amen, brother. A big thing I speak to people about is like, God loves you through it all.
Yeah.
Like, God loves you through your addiction, through if you're dependent on whatever that could be in your life right now. Like, God sees you, He loves you, and He knows that you're struggling.
Yeah.
But there's a certain point that I realized that it can happen a couple different ways. God will bring somebody in your life that is speaking into you, like they're trying to get a message to you, but are you ready to receive it?
Yeah.
And then you might have to hit a breaking point, where in my life I had to hit a breaking point where I had to let my ego down. I had to humble myself. I had to be like, all right, you know what, God, you got this. Like, I am done trying to live life on my own terms. And then I started to surround myself with people that led by faith and did the right things, taking care of other people, and didn't put people down because of their past or things that they have done or whatever that might be. I find a lot of the times people find these groups and then they're like, they'll make fun of somebody or they'll push them down. And you need somebody to uplift you, motivate you, empower you. Like, you're doing a great job. Hey, you messed up. That's cool. We're all daily sinners. We pick up the same cross. I get it. Don't worry. This is hard. This is not easy. Being a believer is easy. Being a follower of Jesus, that's completely different.
Yep.
Did you find your group of people while doing triathlons and Ironmans and finding a new group?
No. I mean, I've got a core group of friends. I've got, I think, like 5 to 6 people, probably 8 people. It's like 5 to 8, I would say. Same people.
Yep.
And it's been been a change, right? Instead of car racing, we're doing mountain bike trips now. I'm actually heading out this weekend, and we're gonna do a mountain bike trip, right? And we're just doing more cool stuff, right? And some guys will drink. I'm not gonna drink, but like, a lot of these guys aren't, they don't have faith, right? And that's fine. And I'm not pushing that on them, but at the end of the day, it's like, that gets me through my vices, whatever they need to do. But like, if anyone always asks me like, hey, I want to learn more about God, or hey, why did God get you through this, or things like that, then I will definitely tell my story. Yes. And I think that's the most part, is like, as Christian people, it's like, it's not, God does, you don't want to, it's not all about you. Yes. It isn't. It's not all about you and your story, right? It's to disciple other people, to bring them into the kingdom here on earth, until we go and be able to sit next to Him on the right hand, at the throne, when we all die. At the end of the day, God is going to bring people to you to help them, and they don't care about your story. They don't give a crap about you. All they want to know is about how can you help them enter into the kingdom here on earth, so they can live as fruitful as they can until they die.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because, when I really started this journey, I thought my testimony was the only way that I could bring people to Christ. But what I realized was, every time I told my testimony more and more and more and more, I wasn't speaking about God as much as I was just speaking about myself, to talk about, look where I was and now look where I am. And I did put God up there. I wanted people to know who God was, but I almost took the light off of Him. So that it's just amazing that you say that, because you don't have to speak about your testimony everywhere you go. Your testimony is in the way you act and you live, and the character traits that you have. Like, you can see God shine right through you. I didn't know you beforehand when you were in addiction, but I'm sure you didn't look as well groomed as you did now, or your skin wasn't glowing, or you can just tell like the soul of you when you speak to you. You're very calm and gentle, and like, when somebody's been through some things in their life,
right?
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things. So now, go ahead.
a lot, and you say that like you've been through some stuff, right? A lot of people get so worked up about the little things every day, right? It's like, do you understand? There's way bigger things in life right now. Like,
yeah.
And I don't want to keep telling about myself, but like, I have to live now without my dad, and you've had to do it too. But like,
yeah,
that's hard stuff. That's hard. Like, you can't go and talk to your like. I just tell people like I remember when people are like, I gotta go see my dad, or my dad wants this. I'm like, you're lucky that you get to actually go spend some time with them, or your dad needs your help right now, because there's going to be a time where you wish that you could go do that. And so like, another message is like, enjoy the people around you right now, surround them, like love their faults, and try to do as much positivity in their life, because you don't know when those people are going to be taken away.
And forgive.
Yeah.
I think is a big one that we don't really speak about, is that forgiveness piece. Like if I know I had to enter into that when, my dad cared more about a bottle than he did me from 0 to 7. And it was like more of a forgiveness, but it was forgiving him, but also forgiving myself for being the person that I was. I held on to this feeling of like, why was I like that? I should have never been like that. Like I would always hold on to that. But when you don't forgive, you don't let God work.
Right.
Because you're going to have that push down. And I've learned that going through life or doing anything, it was really hard for me to forgive myself for losing my business. It was like, well, I'm a loser. But then I realized it was all part of the plan.
Yeah.
Everything we go through is part of the plan. So when it comes to your life right now, what's the next plan?
The next plan right now, I think it's and I just want to thank my wife, because triathlon training, it takes a lot. I haven't looked and added it up, but I've got all my stats from the last 12 months, and like she's just been like really helpful for me to be able to go train with us during the days. Like, I bought a bike light to go train early in the mornings, Clint, or late at night, so I could figure it out. Like, you have to make some sacrifices sometimes, but like, so like, I think the goal for the next, what's next is this. I've got 3 Ironman 70.3s on the schedule for next year.
Okay.
That's the goal. I've got one more local one, but then, so that's a triathlon stuff. Second thing is just date nights with the wife. Like we did that really well up until we moved, and then that kind of went away. So like, continuing doing the date nights once a month. We started with once a month, and we're trying to find babysitters. So, continuing on doing that.
Right.
Let's see what else is next. And then I think the big thing is, I think hopefully here in the next couple months, weeks, months, I'm going to be launching some stuff soon to help more people.
Let's go.
Because I think at the end of the day, right? How many days? Can you Google something? Here, I'll Google it.
Yeah. What do you think?
Google how many days until January 1st?
How many days till January 1st? Okay.
Yes.
How many days till January 1st? 121 days?
So 121 days.
Yep.
So how many people are going to start resolutions December 31st, or put them out there on December 31st, right?
Yeah.
So you have 120 days until you got all 99% of the people. So right now, like, I want to help people that want to get started for next year. And I think a lot of people, like, where I can help is like getting into the endurance racing, or running 5Ks or half marathons or triathlons, right? It doesn't have to be like triathlons. Like, I want to help people that want to go running because they want to move their bodies, or they want to go just run a 5K. Like, I want to go help those type of people, or they want to go cycle 50 miles, right? Like, I want to see people move their bodies, and like, so I'm actually going to be I'm actually in the middle of taking, I haven't come out public with this, so like, you guys are all first to know, but like, I'm taking some courses right now to get a certification to start helping people and start coaching some people on doing that.
Let's go.
So I think because when you look at a lot of people think that, like, 90% of the people that get into triathlons do it because they want to lose weight. But
really?
Yes. Yeah, that's a fact.
I would never think to join a triathlon to lose weight.
Well, no, think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're swimming, biking, and running, right, and you're burning all those calories, you should be able to lose the weight faster. And that's the biggest problem with the triathlon world, is that people think it's so easy because you're burning all these calories, but what they don't know is how to fuel their bodies through these workouts, right? So then you get some person, let's take someone, for example, right, that has had an eating disorder and they want to start triathlons.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big ball of wax for them, because they got to learn how to fuel they got to learn about carbs and fueling their bodies, and then taking in protein and carbs post workout and doing that within a certain time, because you're trying to build muscles and recovery. Whereas they might have this relationship with food that's very evil that they don't know how to deal with. So like, how can I help some of those people out? Not just those people, but how can I help people out who want to lose weight and do it through endurance racing or triathlons, and teach them the right things about fueling their body? So like, that's what I think, that's where my next step goes into next year, is helping those people. So I think I'm going to take 5 to 8 people completely free, because this is just
sign me up, dude. Sign me up. I'm your first.
Completely free, and just kind of trying out my program. So, and then that's kind of what the next step. And I told my wife, I said, hey, I think I'm going to do this. She's like, you just don't rest, do you? I said, no, I got to do something. I got to keep doing stuff.
It's a servanthood. Listen, I got something that I know people can use. It can change their life. This changed my life. And I'm never going to know if I don't do it. You know, and I think that's what I love about what you're doing, is you said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. You know, I'm going through the training. I know the nutrition. I've done it for my body. I've done multiple races. Like, I know exactly, because dude, I know about nutrition, but I don't know about endurance nutrition. Correct. I don't know about the gels you have to take and the carbohydrates and dude, I've been doing my High Rocks workouts on an Alani, and I'm like, this is not working. I gotta put some pre-carbs or something.
Yeah, I was talking to someone and they were at it was Nick Bear. I mean, you didn't even connect.
Yeah, Nick Bear. Yeah.
He was talking about fueling, and that this bodybuilder guy went to I think it was a 50-miler race, right? And he's talking to Nick and stuff like that. And Nick's like, so what'd you bring to fuel? And he says, I just brought chicken and rice, because that's what he knew, right? And then the dude didn't understand like how to fuel his body for those, for those miles. And I think that's the biggest thing. Endurance, ultra marathons and endurance racing and running is becoming pretty popular. I think it goes up every year. Yeah. You know, a lot of these races continue to pop up. A lot of people think that like they want to continue to push themselves. So like, there's going to be people who want to do this, but they don't know how to properly fuel. Like, people eat cheeseburgers and honey buns during this stuff because a honey bun is going to produce a different glycogen, glucose and stuff like that for your body than a gel will, or than a banana, right? So like, there's just some different ways to look at it. And I think that it's just been super interesting learning about it and how I can put some plans together and help people. And I just had a guy, and this is when your stories are working, is that like, you never want to be an inspiration for people. Like, that's not what you strive to be. It's just, whatever God wants you, whatever message you want to put out there. So I put my message out there about, I did a triathlon over the weekend on Saturday, a sprint triathlon. I won my age group, first ever time doing it. So like, you look back at a year ago, I was, getting brought in on a kayak, and now I'm winning my age group in the local triathlons. And this guy says, hey, been an inspiration. Like, I could never bike, I could never swim, but I used to love running, and I just applaud you for what you're doing. So I responded, it's like, why don't you go run then? Like, you don't have to go do a triathlon. I want you to run. He's like, well, I have to do this. And so like, that's a perfect person for me to like, hey, here's how we start easy. Cause like, when you give something up that you love and then you try to get back into it, it's super hard. And it's going to frustrate you, and you're going to be super mad because it doesn't come easy again. But if you take the 1% compounding every day and do the right thing, over the next 30 to 45 days, it will be easier. So
dude, I can relate that to people's walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? So like when you start your walk with Jesus, we have this dichotomy of our whole life is going to change, and sunshines and rainbows are about to appear, and you're going to walk outside and it's never going to rain, and you're never going to go through the valley. But the reality of it is you're just able to have a peace knowing that you're going to get through the things, you're going to get through the valleys, but you're still going to experience everything normally. Like
Yep.
the devil's still there. Sin is still there. All of this is still in our life. And these challenges produce perseverance for us. This suffering produces perseverance and hope. And I think what you can really do, man, is you can tie all this together in a way where you can really have this be a light for people to follow. Maybe they don't even have a relationship with Jesus. And then this is also a gateway for people to start their relationship. Like I always just like visionary think of like, okay, what, like, how cool could that be? And then you have sponsorships where you have Nick Bear, you have Bear Performance Nutrition, and you have Icon Meals, and you have all of these things. And now what you started to do is something that got you out of something is now supporting you and helping other people.
Funny you say that, because like I have always been like, for probably a couple of years, it's like you see all these people making money online and using social media and all this other stuff. And like, right, it's like, why can't that be me? So like I've tried doing some of that stuff. Like I've tried the Herbalife stuff. I've tried some other stuff. It's like I couldn't really do the content because it's just, I'm not passionate about it. It's just no. But then 35 days ago, and I sent you the metrics. But I was like, hey, let me just start doing triathlon stuff, because when I started, I couldn't find anything. Like it was hard for me to find stuff. What's zone 2 running? Like what's TSS? What's blah, blah, blah? Like what's this? I'm like, I can't find any of this stuff. So like I started trying to do some content on that and like helping people out. And like I got this one viral video. The first time I've gone viral, it's like 115,000 views now, about like just something funny that my wife took, like point of view. You sign up for an Ironman, or you sit at an Ironman event for 3 hours to watch your husband for 4 seconds on the bike. And it's like me zipping by, and it's like people can relate to that. Right. So like, so now over the last 30 days, I've gained 50 some followers, and I've had like 226,000 people like my stuff or view my stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm passionate about this stuff. This is like working. So like, this is now like solidifying the right path. And again, why, I chose to do some helping and help people is like, so like you were talking about all this sponsorship, and like the whole goal is like get some brand partnerships in there to help other people. So to get through some of the stuff. So like, I don't have anything to sell anyone right now. I really don't. It's just like trying to help people at this point, but it's going to come, like, and God's got the plan. So it's like, you failed at this. You failed at this. Hey, before I even knew I was going to do the triathlon stuff, like he had me set up for like, I failed a year ago to tell my story out there to help other people. Because when you see people like, I did this amount of marathon, or like, it's almost like intimidating. Like they don't tell like their failures, or like they don't tell their story about it. It's like, I can relate to this guy. Like this guy failed his first triathlon, is now doing all this stuff. Like, okay, cool. Like let's see what he's got going on. So it's like, then you can weave your story and some scripture into that stuff too. So like, and I'm not the perfect Christian. I don't know the whole Bible front to back. I know the stories that align with me and the scripture. And it's just, I'm learning every day like everyone else.
It's the most beautiful thing. The most beautiful thing you just said was you're not perfect. You'll never be perfect.
No.
You talk about your vulnerabilities. You're authentic. You speak about your failures. Because I'm going to tell you right now, people don't like, your wins are great. Don't get me wrong. But more people will connect with your failures than anything, because they can finally relate with you.
Yeah.
And if they can't relate with you, well, then they can just go watch the next top performer go do an Ironman. They can go watch their favorite guy, whatever it might be. But you're gonna have the people come to you who are struggling, who then step into this, and then you get a message 3 years later that say, "Hey, I was watching your videos for the last 3 years, and you motivated me, and my relationship is better. My relationship with my kids are better." Like, I believe all of this stuff happens in the background.
Yeah.
Right, because we're not searching for it, but there are little tiny instances, I believe, that God will put in, be like, "Hey, here you go. Hey, just keep going, same path. You're doing good. I just wanted to send this person to send you a message to let you know that you're doing great." Because I think you're doing amazing things, man. And I think you're going to continue to do amazing things. And I'm going to do something for you. I've been an athlete with Icon Meals for the last 4 years. So I'll speak to Todd and we'll see what we can do on my end. I'm
All
not
right.
friends with Nick Bear, so I can't make that happen. But
That's
I'm
funny.
the kind of person that would just DM him and be like, "Hey, man, this is my story. This is what honestly, I wouldn't even DM him. I would go directly to Bear Performance Nutrition and go to his door and knock and say, "I'm here to see Nick Bear."
No, that's I am going to probably plan a trip maybe because I'm doing my first Ironman 70.3 next year is in Galveston.
Okay.
So I'm hopefully we'll fly to Houston and then go to Galveston, but maybe I can make a short trip up to Austin for a little bit and do that. But yeah, I sent them a message because I use all BPN stuff.
Yeah.
That's just what I use. I sent them a message because they had their brand ambassadors like not accepting anymore. So I wrote an email like, "Hey, is this ever going to open? Blah 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 again." And they responded like, "No, they're closed at the time. Good luck with your journey." And I responded like, "Hey, just to let you know, I will be an athlete of BPN and I will be featured on Nick Bear's podcast at some point. Just I'm letting you guys know." And they're like, "Well, we appreciate your motivation. Well, good luck." I'm like, "You don't realize like this is going to happen." So, like, and like I sent like last summer, I sent Nick a message like on his personal website. Like I've DM'd him stuff like that hasn't read it. And then like maybe, but like the coolest thing is whenever I tag BPN or Nick Bear into one of my stories, and then I see Nick actually sees the story. Like it says like, "Who's viewed your story on Instagram?" Like Nick Bear. I'm like, that's so stinking cool. Like that he's actually seeing stuff that I tag him in. So like down the road, I think, it's all in God's plan. So we'll get, I'm not worried. Like I'll continue using his products, but like at the end of the day, I'll go and I'll meet Nick and we'll have a good conversation and I'm looking forward to it. So
it's going to be amazing, man. This is one thing I would do as you're training for your next race. If you can, you find somebody locally that you can start shooting video with to give you the background of what it takes to train. And he has a really good platform to be able to see how that's done. And he does a really good job at like bringing you into the fold of things. Because that's what people want to see. They're like, "Oh man, this is cool. Like, I want to see, how do you train? How do you do this? Plus you have a family and you have kids and like you have all of the things that everybody is struggling with right now. And then no excuse to still get it done."
Yeah. And I've been using this a lot more.
Yes.
I've been using this and I was, and this is something I'll tell people, like I was so weirded out. Like I've got a tripod stand and like, I was so weirded out. Like I'm sitting there, like putting it up and like shooting videos and stuff like that. And like, even out in public, like I've done this stuff. I've put it up there and like shoot it and like stuff like that. People are like looking at me like, "What are you doing?" Like, and now, like, I used to care what people thought. And that's the biggest thing. And I can tie this back. Like a lot of people care about what Joe Smith down the road's thinking or whatever what are they gonna think about it? Like, I don't care anymore. Like I'm shooting this because people want to see what it takes to do some of this stuff. So like I've been trying to work on that a little bit more. And like it's hard with a one-person band though. And then you got to upload the reels and like I love to do YouTube stuff because like the whole goal for next year for me, the theme for Tyler for next year is sub 5 hours 70.3. Like if you look on my Instagram, it's a working dad pursuing sub 5 hours 70.3 because that's the kind of the mark and stuff like that. So like I think that would be really cool to do a small series on that and like training and things like that. So hopefully I will get it all figured out and we'll start putting it into the atmosphere there. So
dude, you're gonna make it happen. Your story is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for coming on. Like you are this is going to be the start of, I don't know how many podcasts you've done, but this is going to be the start of you being able to tell this story more and more and more, be able to create amazing relationships with people in your life and being able to motivate a lot of people who might be going through some darkness right now, some addiction, something that's really has a vice that's holding them back, and they can hear your story and know how you were able to get out of it. So Tyler, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Clint. I really appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you?
Instagram's the big one. So Tyler, Tyler.Pedersen, Pedersen. Just go to Instagram, DM me, follow me. And if you have any questions, addiction, triathlon, endurance racing, business, just shoot me a DM. I will respond to everyone and help anyone out I can. So
Let's go, brother. Hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for the Limitless Faith podcast. We will be back with another episode with somebody truly amazing, just like Tyler. Have a blessed night, everybody.